Sound of Freedom, 85 million as of July 17th.
85 mil.
And we're looking at a double from last time. In addition, Secret Services concluded cocaine investigation, and no one was identified as a suspect. But anyways, that's not what we're going to be talking about today. What we're actually going to be talking about is Democrats privately saying that Biden will not enter the 2024 candidate, or at least as a serious candidate. We're also going to be talking about the Iowa Summit with Tucker Carlson. We're going to be talking about a variety of other stories that are going to be very interesting. But before you do, don't forget to follow, subscribe, get on all of our Instagram, get on Twitter. That's where we're going to be more active as well. Watch us on Rumble. Don't forget all of that good stuff. But I'm over here with my co-host,
What
JT.
up? Yo, what's poppin'? It's your boy JT, as always, bringing the energy, huh?
Oh, I love it. I love it. But let's get into this first story then. So Democrats privately say Biden will not be their 2024 candidate. Aides say party leaders are looking for other candidates to replace Biden on the ticket. As speculations continue to mount over whether President Joe Biden might be replaced as a candidate in 2024 election, Democrats are now quietly admitting that Biden will not be on that ticket. What are our thoughts here?
Here's the thing. If Joe Biden doesn't run, I want to know who is going to run. Who do you think is going to run against Joe Biden, an incumbent president who was also a vice president and a senator for more than 20 years?
Dude, yeah. And I mean, this is something that I was talking to my wife about, is that we don't know much of the Democrats, like what's going on over here. All we know is that Daddy Biden, well, grown man Biden, is allegedly,
No, it's Daddy Biden.
Although now we're hearing that maybe they're going to be Xing him out. We know RFK is the Democratic, running as a Democrat as well, but the media is shitting on him as well. But and then there was one more individual,
Marianne Williamson, who
That's right.
I'm personally, although my politics lean against her, I'm quite the fan of Marianne.
Are you? I don't know much about her.
She's a hippie.
She's a hippie? I love it.
One of her signature things was saying that right now we're caught in a battle of good and evil. And as a spiritual person, in order to get rid of all the bad karma the United States has, which she lists as things such as, slavery, civil war, the Iraq war, in order to get all over these things, we have to make reparations to those people. And so she's offering to pay every black person in the United States $50,000, which is crazy. But
that is pretty well.
I like the idea behind it, though. Like, I like the thought. Implementation kind of misses me.
Yeah.
But this article does point out somebody who is a super controversial pick to replace Biden as the presidential pick. And his name is Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom. Who would have thought, man?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I thought that was pretty predictable. I thought Gavin Newsom was definitely going to be one of the potential candidates. And again, I mean, it's not like they've actually announced anything, but everyone's speculating. I know a lot of speculation goes around. Michelle Obama, Oprah, even as going
Oprah's
as far
been
as
around
Oprah.
for years,
but
man.
No, exactly. And then again, all we have is RFK. And then Marianne Williamson. And man, look at this this amount of Republican candidates over here. We got
tons.
Ron DeSantis, of course, potentially Larry Elder. I don't know if he actually came out saying if he is running, but we also got like Nikki Haley. We got Asa Hutchinson, which Tucker Carlson destroyed this guy. Well, not destroyed,
all of them. And we'll
slightly.
talk about it in a second. He destroyed 90% of the party.
Yeah, and we got like Perry Johnson. I mean, like the list goes on, but like, man, where's the Democrats? But to talk about that, we want to put and prop Gavin Newsom. Like, that's pretty wild to me in the sense, like, well, let's look at your state, you know?
What about California do you hate?
Oh, man. Well, the list could go on and on and on there.
Give us like five. What are 5 things that Gavin Newsom has done that you don't like in the state of California?
Oh, man. Well, for me, it's going to be simultaneously a matter of opinion as well as that's just like the empirical data that's there. He's doing terrible about the homeless.
So number one, homeless.
Homeless. Early release of convicted felons with an executive order, easier for the release of those convicted felons with little transparency. So that's two. Education is terrible. So like 2/3 of California, student failing to meet all kinds of standards within the education in California. Businesses, so like fleeting. So we see like everyone in San Fran leaving San Francisco. I mean, but everyone's rushing over to Florida. And then another one, in my personal opinion, this one, and I'm sure a lot of people might agree with this one, is he has that the suggestion for the 28th Amendment, where it's basically just ban all guns, which is contrary to our Second Amendment. But like, okay,
it's quite literally an amendment on an amendment.
Yeah.
I really, though, if I was a Democrat, I really don't have a problem with Gavin Newsom running. Because if I'm a Democrat, he stands for everything of where the Democratic Party is, right? He believes in reparations. He's, pro public school choice. He's anti-gun. He's really, I would say, as a Democrat, he's very strong on social issues. But I would say he's even more stronger on economic policy. I mean, you go to California and you're taxed up the wazoo. I mean, I know my stepbrother moved from California to here. He was making, here is in Arizona, by the way. He was making about $120,000 in California, bringing home about $50,000. He comes over to Arizona, makes 80 grand, and is keeping about 72, 73 of it. So he's making way more money with a less salary job because California is so expensive.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk about this man for a while and all of his trials and tribulations. But however, he puts himself in the spot, I feel. I mean, obviously he's catering to the woke mind, his woke followers, and the people who like to structure their lives and orient themselves on this hypothetical compassion, because it seems like everything's about compassion. But I mean, me personally, I don't see compassion as a virtue. I see more.
You don't? Wait.
It more.
You don't see compassion as a virtue?
Absolutely not.
Okay,
let me explain.
Sideline the political talk. I want to hear, why don't you define compassion as a virtue?
For me, well, here we go. So compassion to me is more of a reflex, right? Compassion to me, if taken to the extreme, well, we get this as a result. So instead, what I like to substitute compassion for is more justice and mercy. So like, are you being properly adjudicated for your actions? Are you dealing with the proper consequences of your actions? So for me, compassion, we're seeing what happens when we just rule on compassion. So like, for example, we've had talked with like my wife and I about like kids and like, are we going to pass on some things? Are we going to not? But like for me, I'm like, well, for me, it's kind of a marker of me failing if they're constantly having to like ask for, it doesn't matter, fill in the blank, stuff, things. They always need a handout, where for me, compassion would have been like, well, let me give you this, let me give you this, let me give you this. And what I'm actually doing at that point is I'm enabling someone to the point where they're no longer, there's no incentive to like try if I'm just like acting on compassion. That's why for me, it's more like a reflex. And for me, it's more justice and mercy. So like God rules with two hands, which is justice and mercy. I think those are the actual, in my opinion, okay? Those are like the true virtues that supersede compassion. If that makes sense.
I would actually argue that compassion is a superseding virtue over justice and mercy, because compassion can be found in justice and mercy, right? Like, and compassion is what I would call an umbrella term for a lot of these emotions which seek to gratify somebody else's ego or be sympathetic towards someone else's belief. Stuff like gratitude, being sympathetic, being empathetic, but you can all bundle that in compassion. And so compassion is most definitely a virtue, and it's a virtue because every religion in the world talks about it. Catholicism talks about it, Buddhism talks about it, Hinduism talks about it, the Quran talks about it. All of these different religions talk about compassion being a virtue and something to be striven after for. I don't think justice necessarily is always something to be striven after for. but I do think mercy is. But I don't think you'll find anybody who will disagree that compassion is something that you shouldn't be chasing after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I just sort of see it that way. I feel like at the moment we've had an excess of compassion.
Oh,
so maybe
no.
that's the proper way.
So then I understand your point. If you're saying what you pointed out to me, what I was hearing from you was all the negative downsides of what too much compassion in a society looks like.
Yeah.
And it looks like what we have. You're over compassionate at the neglect of your own needs, or neglecting your own needs in favor of the collective needs.
Exactly. So that's more the sense where I'm seeing.
I'm behind that, buddy.
So like compassion to me is that, and like a lot of our, for example, a lot of our legislation that Democratic side is trying to propose, and sometimes the right as well gets on board. Like whenever we're introducing a new bill that's on like a hypothetical compassion, like saves the puppies act or whatever.
Save the turtles, buddy.
So right now I feel like we're seeing what happens when compassion goes to an extreme. So there's always obviously the middle ground, the balance between compassion, and that's why I see the middle aspect is the compassion where. The other extremes would be like justice and mercy, and giving too much mercy all the time. It's like, well, now you're just going to enable someone.
Right.
But that's kind of like another conversation. But that's sort of the way I see it like that.
Yeah.
So I guess to withdraw a little bit of what I said, compassion is a virtue, but we got to understand that virtues in excess could turn into vices.
You need to. What he's saying, guys, is you need to balance all virtues. You can't just have an excess of one because it means diminishing the benefits of another one.
Exactly.
And also tying that into the article, I don't know if you saw when Newsom was on Hannity, when he had the interview with Hannity, he ripped Hannity to shreds. And I think what's really key about Gavin Newsom's interview with Hannity was it was a test for him to see how he would appear on media television against someone who's in opposition. And it functioned kind of like a semi kind of functioned as a semi-debate between Newsom and Hannity. And Hannity's an outright Trump supporter. So it was a really smart pick for Gavin Newsom to go on Hannity because it's a proxy for what it would look like as if he was debating Trump, which the left obviously knows that Trump is most likely going to be the president. Hence why we see so many different lawsuits and things going after Trump to prevent him from taking that Oval Office.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the Biden administration is basically using the entire weight of like government and all these agencies to to try to convict, indict, or I guess indict then convict Trump and any political opponent basically in this race. And where is the justice on the other side? We had the whole scandal with the cocaine where apparently it just manifested itself in the White House.
Yeah.
And then, we know about the Hunter laptop story and also how they were suppressing the story, all these, 3 acronym institutions like FBI, CIA. I mean, as soon as Elon Musk took over Twitter, we started to find out through the Twitter files how they were explicitly saying how they were censoring, and also Facebook, a lot of information. But all these people are in cahoots with each other. But yeah, I didn't see what you're referring to though. However, but you're absolutely right. I think that was a good, at least to check the temperature of like how it's going to be.
Right.
As soon as you start debating, assuming there's going to be a debate, what is going to be to debate the final boss, which is Trump, which I cannot wait for.
I mean, we'll get to this later in the podcast when we go over poll numbers, but I really don't think that Trump is going to be the nominee. I have a hard time believing it. I understand what the left is trying to do by gaslighting and firing up all of Trump's base. So they vote for him because they know that Biden's going to beat Trump in the election, but it's not going to be Biden, it's going to be Gavin, and Gavin's going to look a whole lot better against Trump, and yada, yada, yada. I could do a whole episode talking about the politics of a debate stage and poll numbers and kind of the insight on what the left is doing to prop up Trump. But on the right side, Tucker Carlson has just started uploading all of these Twitter videos, and he went outside and met with all of these Republican candidates over the weekend and just destroyed their careers. in any presidential aspirations of just about all of them besides 3 people. I would say 4 if you count one
Yeah.
of them.
Well, let's just get into this story then. So this is a good segue. So